mata cha pita tvameva, tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva, tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva, tvameva sarvam mama deva deva, tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidhishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The excitement of Zoom. So we have finished the second section on answering the question, is there prarabdha for the Jivan Mukti, the saint? And just to review the major principles, what causes the body of the woman of knowledge to act in the world? Why don't they drop dead at the moment of realization? The answer is prarabdha karma, the force of the past maturing in this life. The sanchita karma, the karmas of the past which have yet to fructify, have been roasted in the fire of knowledge. The agami karmas, the karmas of the future created in this life, also roasted in the fire of knowledge. So there's just the now, the now. And then Shankara says the mark of the person of realization is they are not identified with the body, they are identified with the self. So just like you do not identify with your shadow, the woman of steady wisdom does not identify with her body. Then Shankara goes on to say, can we say that there's any real relationship with the body? The body is something that's created by the imagination. Best way to understand that is to answer the question, do you incarnate into a dream? Is the dream in you, or are you in the dream? And does anything in the dream ever really touch you? No. Then, if prarabdha karma is a form of cause and effect, we understand that in the world of imagination, that isn't real either. No prarabdha karma. Then why do we have the teaching in the scripture? It is for the ignorant to endeavor to explain when they see the Jivan Mukti walking and talking and behaving in the world, what causes that. From the standpoint of the liberated soul, there's no identification that particularizes with this body or that. It all appears like a dream. Any questions on this before we move on to the next section? Ganesh, do you have enough light?
I think so.
If you look behind you, you can turn the overhead light on the Krishna to the right.
Should be okay for now.
All right. So we will now go on to the next section. So we'll be starting with verse 72. No, section 72. What number are we on?
465.
465. Going on, next verse.
Paripurnam Anadhyantam Prameyam Avikriyam Ekamevadvayam Brahma Mehana Nasti Kinchana. Only Brahman there is, non-dual, with no beginning or end, incomparable and changeless. In it, there is no duality whatsoever.
Yes. So sometimes we've talked about self and not self. Saguna Brahman, Brahman with qualities. Nirguna Brahman, Brahman without qualities. Here Shankara is saying, in fact, that birthless, changeless, deathless Brahman is all that is. What appears as a world of name and form arises like a phantom, an image in Brahman. Now, the classic, I think the best way to explain this comes from the 4th chapter of the Mandukya Upanishad, Gaudapada Karika. This is a gloss written by Shankara's grandfather guru, Gaudapada. The chapter is titled Alata Shanti, the quenching of the torch or the firebrand. So we move it into modern times, and I call it the circle in the sparkler. So if it's the 4th of July or Diwali and you have a sparkler, you at night make a circle with the sparkler. You see a circle that is like the world appearing. What is it? It's the point of the sparkler appearing as a circle. But does the circle really exist? Can you grab the circle in the sparkler and put it on your head as like a garland or use it as a hula hoop? No. It's an optical illusion. When you quit moving the sparkler, where does the circle go? Is it like a fishing rod with a reel where I'm reeling up the whole world? No, just it's not there because it was never really there in the first place. It appeared, but it's not substantive. It's non-substantial. Now listen very carefully. Many times we've done the exercise. How do you know you are you? I understand. We talk about the self being self-evident, self-luminous. I is the knower, I is the means of knowledge, I is that which is known. Listen very carefully. Your perception of the world is the same thing. It is the self-evidence of Brahman. Brahman is the knower. Brahman is the sense perception. Brahman is that which is known. There is nothing else that takes place but the self-evidence of consciousness. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma bliss is verily Brahman. That's the great saying from Chandogya. Any thoughts, any questions on this? Next verse.
Sabghanam chidghana nityamanandaghanam akriyam ekamevadvayam brahmanehana nasti kinchana. The essence of existence, the essence of knowledge, the essence of eternal bliss, non-dual, devoid of any activity. There's only Brahman. In it there is no duality whatsoever.
So here he says that everything out there is nothing but the bliss of Brahman. All is Maya. All is bliss. And Swamiji didn't translate it that way, but didn't he say Chit Ghanam?
Sabghanam chidghanam, yeah.
Yes. Ghanam means a homogeneous mass. So a homogeneous mass of pure existence. A homogeneous mass of pure consciousness. There's nothing else. Oh, this is high philosophy, Jim, but that's not my experience. I have a jerk for a boss. How come I see my boss as a jerk? Because you believe the senses. It's like the child who reaches out to the circle in the sparkler to put it on her head. It's pretty. I'm going to put it on my head like a crown. So our job is to let go of my habituated reactivity to the world. Keeping the mind so deeply introverted. It's all Brahman. We want to see with the divine eye, the jnana chakshu, the eye of wisdom, not the two eyes of duality, I and mine, this and that, good and bad. Next one.
Satyam ekarasam purnam anantam sarvatomukham ekamevadvayam brahma nehananasti kinchana. The subject within all, non-dual, homogeneous, endless, all-pervading. There is one Brahman. In it there is no duality whatsoever.
And the first one was the subject of it, in it all?
The subject within all.
Yes, yes. So
Actually, it actually says pratyageka rasam, which I guess means the juice within it all. ekarasam.
Yes, the juice within. I like that even better. So when the mind extroverts because out of foolishness it longs for this, that, and the other thing, then the mind suffers. When the mind comes home, it gets the taste, the juice of Brahman. And it's there in everyone. No one's left out. Oh, I need to go get juice from Swamiji. I don't have any. It's my own self. Vedanta is so simple in the end. When I was in India and I went to see Swami Tejomayananda in 2015, there was a big Gita camp. And he was asking all the Swamis and Brahmacharis what their favorite Gita verse was. He comes to me and says, Jim, what's your favorite Gita verse? The one that came to my mind was verse 55 from the second chapter. When a man casts off, when a person casts off all the desires of the mind, O Partha, and is satisfied in the self, by the self, then he or she is said to have attained to steady wisdom. That's it. That's all of yoga right there. So simple in the end. Next one.
Aheyam anupadeyam anadeyam anashrayam ekamevadvayam brahma nehana nasti kinchana. That which is to be neither shunned nor taken up nor accepted. That which is non-dual and without support. There is one Brahman. In it there is no duality whatsoever.
So we have all these practices of things that are to be taken up. Do this practice, do that practice. Things to be shunned, give this up, give up that practice, that activity. Yourself is beyond all that. It cannot be attained. It cannot be achieved. It cannot be acquired. And it cannot be lost. When you ever not you? Even if you forget, do you know the self? No, I thought I knew the self, but I lost it. Or do you know that you were in ignorance? Yes, I know I'm in ignorance. Who knows it? I do. Who thinks he's ignorant? I do. Do you exist? Of course I exist. Even in ignorance, I am, I know, I shine. It's the perfect knowledge. The great cosmic joke is you've had it all along, but in the subtle intellect, we need to realize it. And brings the mind, it's the peace that it's been seeking. Next one. We have a Zoom bomber on the street.
Nirgunam Nishkalam Sukshmam Nirvikalpam Niranjanam Ekamadvayam Ekamevadvayam Brahma Nehananasti Kinchana. With no qualities or parts. It is subtle without disturbances and taintless. There is one Brahman, in which there is no duality whatsoever.
Yes. So it has no parts, no dirt, no anything, no taint. Beyond speech, beyond the mind, never known as an object, always as the eternal subject. In it, there is nothing but that. Again, going back to Mandukya in the second chapter, I think it's the fourth Karika. Gaudapada basically says, the phenomenal world is quite unreal. The proof of its unreality is you can see it. If it can be objectively apprehended in any way, it is mithya, or as that chapter says, vaitatya, falseness. Only I is real. We do not acquire the self. The mind begins to understand its own unreality. The mind quits believing itself. Next one.
Anirupya Swarupam Yanmano Vachama Gocharam Ekamevadvayam Brahma Nehananasti Kinchana. The real nature of which is incomprehensible, which is beyond mind and speech and non-dual. There's only one Brahman. In it, there is no duality whatsoever.
Yes. So it's not figure outable. It is avyapadesham, untalkaboutable. Again, back to second chapter of Gita. There Krishna says, he who knows it not. Meaning I can give you a discourse on the self. And then it says, she who knows it not knows it. When you stop the mind and you unknow. Beyond speech, beyond mind, achintyam, unthinkable. Next one.
Satsmritham Svatasiddham Shuddham Buddham Anidrisham Ekamevaadvayam Brahma Nehana nasti kinchana. Self-existing, self-evident, pure intelligence, unlike anything finite, non-dual. There's only one Brahman, and there's no plurality whatsoever.
So these first ones, what was it? Self-existent?
Self-existing, yes.
Self-existing. No other instrument is needed to validate its existence. I know that I am. Self-evident was the next one?
Yeah.
Self-evident. Again, by virtue of what do I know the self? The self knows the self. Unlike anything else, everything else in the world is known as an object. Not me. You yourself are your own means of knowledge. In another dimension from this world, actually. Outside of time and space. Yet immanent, totally pervading this world. Vijnana homogeneous mass of consciousness. Chidakash, the space of pure awareness. Next one.
Nirasta raga, virasta bhoga, shanta sudanta, yatayo mahanta, vijnaya tattvam, parametadante, prapta param, nirvriti matyama yogat, nirvriti matma yogat, noble-hearted, renunciated, who are rid of attachments. Noble-hearted renunciates who are rid of attachments, who have given up all sense enjoyments, who are calm and controlled, realize this supreme truth, and at the end, they gain bliss supreme as a result of their self-realization.
Yes. So noble-hearted, those people who have the courage to travel this path, to not be swayed by all the distracting voices of the world. Very rare. Who have given up attachments for the world. Who have not only realized the self, but have retired into the self. They don't let the silliness of the world cause their mind to extrovert. Always empty. You can have it. Next one.
Bhavanapidam paratattvamatmanah swarupamanandaghanam vicharya vidhuya moham Samana prakalpitam mukta kritartho bhavatu prabuddhaha. You too discriminate thus. Be established in the surpassing truth, the real nature of the Atman, which is bliss absolute, and shaking of the delusion created by your own mind. Be liberated and illumined and reach the fulfillment of your life.
So many of the people who come to this text come to satsang. Oh, this is a great thing, but not for me. I'm just an ordinary fellow or an ordinary woman. No blame. But why settle for small, little, temporary joys and suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as Shakespeare calls it? We finally get to a point where we're tired of the world. And we start to get serious about our yoga. Are you okay, Ganesh?
Yeah.
It's quite all right. So here the Guru says, you can have it. What must I do, Guruji? Going back to the qualifications of a fit student. Remember, Shankara says, success in spiritual endeavors is entirely due to the degree of the qualifications of a fit student, being adhikari. What are they? Viveka. What is Viveka? Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is nitya, illusion. This firm conviction in the intellect is known as discrimination between the real and the unreal. Vairagya, that desire to give up attachments to all enjoyments gained through the senses, and renouncing all ideas of self from the body up to including Brahma. Shama, Dhamma, and Uparati. Keeping that mind intensely introverted. Remember, he says the best Uparati, withdrawal, is when you don't get moved by the perception of the sense objects. The diksha, forbearance. Being able to deal with the pinpricks of life without the need for redress or revenge. Shraddha, faith. Samadhana, that peaceful state of mind when you're just steady on the path toward the goal. And then finally, mumukshutva. I really want it. You can have it. Remember, you don't become a fit student and then do all these exercises or these practices. All of yoga is becoming a fit student. And finally, you're a fit student. And you see. So always, if we feel stuck, go back, look at the qualifications of a fit student. Puna. Next one.
Samadhina sadhu vinishchalatmana pashyatma Sputaboda chakshusha nisamshayam samyag avekshitaschehe shrutah padartho na punarvikalpyate. Perceive the nature of the self with the eye of perfect knowledge through samadhi, where the mind has been brought to complete quietude. If the declarations of Shruti heard from the teacher are perfectly understood without a trace of doubt, it can lead to no more skepticism.
So it's not just our indirect knowledge, but our direct experience. How? Bringing the mind to a still point. The samadhi. There's no doubt about who I am and what this world is. Next one.
Svasya vidya bandha sambandha mokshat satya jnanananda rupatma labdhau shastram yukti shastram yuktir deshiko ti pramanam chanta siddha swanabhuti pramanam. When the self, the existence knowledge bliss, is realized through liberation from one's bondage of ignorance, then the scriptures, logical reasoning, the words of the teacher, these are proofs. The subjective experience of one's own concentrated mind is yet another proof.
Yes. So we have these pramana. Pramana means a means of knowledge, but also means proof or authority. So we have the scriptures, we have the teaching of the Guru, you have your own logical reasoning, but in the end, it's from your own direct experience. And all that other stuff disappears. How do I know if I've had samadhi and realized myself? Because it swallows all doubt. Krishna himself could come up and say, "Oh, you don't know." Thank you, Lord. Whatever you say, but I know. I have no doubts about my essential nature. No. It is absolutely self-validating. Now, listen carefully. There's a very weird state that many people go through. where you actually do know, but the mind keeps throwing up doubts. Usually things like, is this it? Am I realized? Is there more? And we want some sort of surety. Have I got it? And this is the way out. Listen very carefully. Who's asking all those stupid questions? Is yourself asking them? Next one.
बन्धो मोक्षश्च तृप्तिश्च चिन्तारोग्यक्षुधादयः स्वेनैव वेद्ध्यायन्त्यज्ञानम् परेषामानुमानिकम्. Bondage and liberation, contentment and anxiety, health, hunger, etc., are known only by the person concerned. Others have knowledge of these by mere inference.
So, you don't get an enlightenment certificate. Each of us knows if I feel well or I don't. I think one of the things that's maddening for some of us, you go to the doctor, you say, Doctor, I don't feel well. I have a pain here. The doctor does all these tests and says, well, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not sick. But I have a pain here. I am the authority. You're not sick. Stupid. You know when there's something wrong. Likewise, when you thin the mind and introvert your attention and notice the knower. What's there? And if a doubt arises, as the ego marches towards the self, I want to be realized, I want to be realized, I want to be realized. Its paradigm is, aha, I'm a Muni, I'm enlightened. That's not what happens. As it marches towards the self, it just withers away. Only I remains. To try to be an enlightened person is like the person who's getting ready to commit suicide and says, oh, I can't wait to see my dad at my funeral. He's going to be so upset because he's going to know it's his fault. I can't wait to be there to see him suffer. Who is there sitting in the front pew at his own funeral? the mark of the woman of knowledge. Ego's gone. We give up asking the questions, do I know, don't I know? Who's asking? Drop it. Brahma Satya. Brahman alone is real. Jagan Mithya. All phenomena without exception is illusion. Have no concern for it. Next verse.
Tatastita bodhayanti duravash shrutayo yatha prajnayaiva tared vidvad pranishvaranugrihitaya prajnayaiva tared vidvani tared vidvan ishvaranugrihitaya. Standing apart, the teachers and the scriptures instruct the disciple. The man of realization crosses over avidya by illumination and the grace of God.
So the Guru stands apart. He's not part of this world. To the foolish, he looks like he's a part of this world. Again, in Gita, Krishna says, what is day to the yogi is night for all others. What is night for the yogi is day for all others. Or the way Jesus put it, I am in the world, but not of it. Yet, when a fit student comes, the Guru pours out the knowledge. This is this Guru Shishya Parampara, this handing it off, generation after generation. In the Catholic Church, on the most sacred night, the great vigil of Easter, one of the rituals is they light the Easter candle, the light of Christ. And then two people take two candles and they light it from that one candle. And they turn to other people and they light candles from that. They keep passing the light on till the whole church is filled with candlelight. But the beauty of this, the imagery, is when you have a candle light and pass on to someone else, your candle does not diminish. The light just keeps expanding. That's how this Guru Shishya Parampara, this passing it on from teacher to student works. It's nothing from the Guru to give that light to a disciple. Hopefully they pass someone else. But you can't pass it on unless there's a fit student. That's that dance. And this relationship is outside of worldly transaction. It's outside of the marketplace. Oh, Guruji, I'm a vulgar person, but I have $1 million. Will that buy me realization? I know of a friend who came to Swamiji, and all he had was a leaf and a flower. He gave it to Swamiji. That was his Guru Dakshina. That's all he had. That was enough. Next verse.
Svanubhutya swayam nyatva swamatmanam akhanditam samsiddha sammukham tishten nirvikalpan manatmani. Knowing his own absolute self through realization, becoming perfect, a man should stand face to face before the Atman, with mind free from all concepts of dualism.
Yes, so this is what need be done. The teacher hands us the tools. If we're subtle, he can show us the awakened state of mind. But then we must become rooted in it. So I know that Atman as my own self. We do the work. Next one.
Vedanta Siddhanta Niruktiresha Brahmaiva Jiva Sakalam Jagatcha Akhanda Rupa Sthitireva Moksho Brahmadvitiye Shrutaya Pramanam. The final opinion of all Vedantic discussion is that the Jiva, as well as the entire universe, are Brahman alone. That liberation means to be rooted in Brahman, the indivisible entity. The statement that Brahman is non-dual has its authority in Shruti.
So, what is the final statement of Scripture? Again, because Shankara is writing in a particular style for a particular audience where everything that he puts forward must be backed up with the authority of the Upanishads. Here he states what is the teaching. It's not about acquiring siddhis. It's not about being good. It's not about ritual. It's not about wealth. It's to know by your own direct experience that the self in you and the self in all, the ground of being, are the same. That there is no otherness. Talked about the 4 Mahavakyas, each one coming from one of the Vedas, that are the total summation of this work. The first, Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is consciousness, meaning the ground of being of the entire creation is consciousness. Where is it? Number 2, Ayamatma Brahma. This self is Brahman. All the self out there is Brahman. No, 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 no. Tat Tvamasi. You are that. When we talk about the self, it's not some abstraction. Who sees the phone? I do. That's yourself. The only doubt we have is all of the nonsense I superimpose on that direct experience. Then the 4th one is not Aham Mahatma, I am a great soul. Aham Muni, I'm a sage. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. This is the declaration of the Upanishads. This is the declaration of the scriptures, the Smriti, the Gita, the Ramayana, all the writings of the great saints and sages. This is arrived at through your own logical reasoning. And by grace, it's your own direct experience. Next verse. How many more do we have in this section, Ganesh?
We just finished the section.
We just finished it. And what's the next section?
Practice of knowledge, disciple.
Yes, I think we will stop here. I thought we were toward the end. So we have time for some questions and some comments.
What's the next verse?
480.
480. Thanks.
So we will probably finish the text before July. It goes very quickly at the end here. So I think that the next text we will take here on Monday nights will be the essence of Yoga Vasishta. And Sound and Puneet brought back, how many did you bring back? 30 copies?
I guess.
Puneet, do you remember?
Yeah, I think there's about 20 to 25 copies.
20 to 25 copies left. So what we'll do is another book giveaway. To do that, for those of you who are out of station, I'm not quite sure what we could do. We might be able to mail it to you. It's not a book that's easy to acquire here in the United States. We'll have some discussions about this offline. Who do we have regularly who's zooming in from far away? I know we have Mark Herman. Who else tonight is from out of the area?
David Okada.
David Okada, yes.
Jag, I'm here.
Where do you live?
Oh, I'm in the Los Angeles area.
Okay. Well, before the end, we'll get everybody's address and find a way to get the text to you. That's the only thing I can think of now. We might come up with a better idea. I don't think it's available in any like Kindle format or anything like that. We had to literally go to India to get them. Any other thoughts or questions about tonight's material or anything that we're doing? Jack, was that your name, the fellow from Los Angeles?
Oh, Jag, you know me, Jim. It's Jag.
Oh, as in Mr. Divya.
No.
Jag.
Jag. Oh, Jag Shetty. Okay, I thought you
Yes.
said Jack.
Oh,
Yes.
no. JAG.
Yes.
Chug it.
Jack. Chug it. Yes, I know you. We'll get you a text.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, then I think we'll end early. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.